Hi everybody, very warm welcome to this session on Apache Drill. In fact, this is the second session of the webinar series which we are holding on upcoming technology. So I think let's get started. My name is Vishal, and I intend to present a few of the findings on Apache Drill, its plus points, what exactly they are, and just for the information of the people who might be attending this webinar for the first time. This is not the first webinar on Apache Drill. Almost a month back, probably, we had the first webinar in the series of Apache Drill, wherein we introduced it. And at that point of time, we kind of shared how exactly, you can install it, what exactly is the architecture of it, what exactly makes it, in fact, quite fast and good for real-time analytics or near real-time analytics, right? So those are a few of the things. I hope either all of you or many of you would have already attended those sessions. Just the continuation of the further topics. So it's primarily based on the extension of the topics, whatever we discussed last time. Let's introduce a little bit about myself. My name is Vishal, as you know, and it's all about, when it comes to my experience, it's going to be almost 15 years of overall experience, I would say. And since last almost 6 years or so, I'm working in big data domain. And when I talk about big data domain, it's my journey started in Hadoop, and that was a time when we were actually working. We were doing a little bit research on the distributed systems and all, and eventually now Hadoop is a story which is known very well to all of the people. And over the period of time, I started moving on to some other topics. Let us just get started in terms of what exactly is the plan for the day. So of course, what will you learn today is something. So if you really talk about it, the crux of the matter here is that we plan to extend our understanding of Apache Drill to the next level. Is there anybody who attended the last session? Actually, there are 4 or 5, right? So, okay, are you able to recall what exactly, where exactly we stopped? I hope you would be able to recall that we did cover how exactly this Apache Drill is installed, what are the different modes it can work, and what were the different storage plugins, right, which could be integrated. And then I think we worked with at least one storage plugin, if I recall it properly, right? So if you remember, I was telling you that the next step would be the extension of these data sources together. All of these data sources, whatever I was querying separately, I was planning to put them together, and that is what is going to be the primary focus for the day. So it is all about, you have multiple data sources. Drill gives you the capability of querying these data sources from a single platform. That is the best thing. But then it does not stop there. It is not like you are accessing HBase, so you cannot access, let's say, Hadoop, basically HDFS. Or you are accessing HDFS, then at the same time, you cannot access, for example, Hive Metastore services, right? You can do all of that. So that is something which we are going to establish today, wherein in a single query, how do you put multiple data sources in a single query? First, which are there on the very same platform. Second, with the help of one industry use case, and I'm sure when I go to that industry use case, you will be able to identify that it is one of the very common use cases across the industry. We'll see how exactly Apache Drill helps you to get the data from completely heterogeneous systems. And when I talk about it, it's all based on the hands-on part, wherein we'll be seeing how exactly to achieve this in the system. So by doing the query and all, I'll be I'm planning to cover that particular portion. So for all the people who are attending it for the first time, I will do a very quick recap so that you can connect, and I'm sure this might be helpful for the people who kind of attended the first one as well, right? So let me just tell you the biggest USP for drill, right? The unique selling point, as we say, is that when you talk about big data systems, and it could be batch, it could be real time, it doesn't really matter. What is important is that you have the data which comes across the different data sources, right? This is something which is very common. Some of your data might be structured, some of the data is structured and it is available via tables. Some of the data might be in the form of logs. Some of the data might just be available in the form of, let's say, JSON files and all, right? So it's all about, you have the data source data available, but in various forms, and you can't really help it. So if you talk about it, then most of your big data projects involve the processing or the steps of data preparation. And in fact, the current project also, I'm telling you by my experience of last actually now more than 6 years, that in any serious big data project, you end up spending almost 60% of time on the data preparation layer. Your insight, your queries, whatever hypothesis you want to test with the data and all, they are pretty simple, more often than not, okay? Or probably if you are going in the area of machine learning and all, then things become a bit complicated. But let's not even get into those complicated scenarios. Even in the simple digging of the data, your queries and all are not very difficult. But it is the data preparation which takes a lot of time. And only when you complete the data preparation across the different data sources, clean the data, massage the data, do everything, and then you perform the query, that is the time when you start getting the insights of the data. That is the time when data starts revealing the information to you, and then you start thinking, okay, what exactly am I going to do next with this, right? Either some decision making, or is it a feedback loop, or whatever it is, right? So this is the typical life cycle of any big data projects where a thing called drill is not involved, okay? Now, can somebody tell me, what is the biggest thing in data preparation which you do? I am assuming that there are quite a lot of people, or at least few people, who are already working in big data domain. You can just type on questions tab. So I think in the data preparation, in the interest of time, I'll answer it. But at least you guys can confirm, right? You can confirm whether you agree with me or not. You take the data across multiple data sources, you do the cleansing and all, and the biggest thing is you bring this data to some sort of structure, some sort of unified structure, so that it can be queried further. In that process, you do the data cleaning, you do the data transformation, you do the data validation, you do the data profiling. All of that is the part of it. But the end aim of it is, wherever you are getting the data across multiple data sources, at least try to bring it at the very same schema level. Isn't it the case? Thanks a lot for confirming, right? So in this process, the biggest problem is that you are trying to achieve a kind of a schema. And that's where the problem becomes, right? That's where the problem becomes bigger, because you are trying to achieve the schema part, which is the meta operations, not even the data operations. They are all the meta operations which you keep on doing. It takes a significant amount of time. And of course, the life cycle increases. With drill, so I'm now referring to the bottom part of this slide. With drill, the scenario changes drastically. So when I talk about the scenario, it's all about all of the popular data formats like JSON, CSV, TSV, etc., etc. The biggest thing is you don't have to define any schema. Okay. So the moment I say you do not need to define any schema, I'm sure many of you would have thought, oh, is it NoSQL database? It is not a database, first thing. It is a query engine, and it is SQL query engine. Okay, so this is the biggest USP of Drill, wherein you just feed the data to it as it is from whatever data source it is, whether it is Hive, whether it is HBase, whether it is a plain file, whether it is a JSON file, whether it is a TSV file, doesn't really matter. You don't need to define a metadata layer. You don't need to define it, and you can directly go ahead and start writing SQL. And Drill does that schema definition, deriving that schema information from the data. That part of the thing is done by Drill automatically. Drill does these things for you. You don't even have to do anything at all with this data. And if this is something which surprises you, probably it might not be surprising for the people who are attending this, who have attended the first session, because you might have seen the hands-on. For the people who are listening it for the first time, I will show you what I really mean. Okay, so I'm not just saying that I'll load a file and I'll start doing the SQL. I will show you how exactly it can be done. Okay, so do you now recognize the biggest advantage here? The biggest advantage here is that all of the data parsing of the data formats which are like disparate with each other has gone. It has completely disappeared. Of course, it is not easing your pain of doing the data cleaning, removing the inconsistencies and all. This is something where Drill is not going to help you, because that is the data. But all of the data features are taken care of, right? So this is something where Drill comes really handy. That is point number one. The point number two is, it is not actually the replacement of any of your existing big data query engines like Hive, like Spark SQL. It is not saying that I'm going to replace them. It leverages them. It can get the data directly from Hive. It can get the data directly from HBase. It can get the data directly from HDFS and all. And at the same time, you will see how quick or how fast it is. Actually, that fast part is something which I have already covered in first webinar. So I would not be repeating that thing today from the performance perspective. I would be going to a little bit more advanced topics today. Okay. So are we good? Can we move ahead? Thank you. Now, whatever slides you are seeing for some time, like under 2 or 3 slides, are kind of, we have covered in this in the module, or no, I would not call it as module, in the webinar number 1. But for the people who are coming here for the first time, let me just a second. So let me just open a few things for you. Okay, so I would like to go to my virtual machine. This is my virtual machine, and guys, like last time, I have already installed Apache Drill in this. Okay, so when you install Apache Drill gives you a nice web UI. Sorry, my mistake. 047. Apache Drill gives you a web UI, which kind of gives you overall. It's just like any of the big data systems, like you have the job tracker UI, or for that matter applications UI in Yarn, or in Spark you have the web UI. And similarly, Apache Drill also gives you the web UI. It's all about monitoring purpose. It not only just gives you the monitoring purpose capabilities, it even gives you the capabilities of running the query from UI side also. Okay, it gives you all of those capabilities. So I'll do a very quick revision of those capabilities, either from the command line or even from the editor in a short while. But the idea is that if you're, let's say, how do you identify, just a second, how do you identify that your drill is right now running? So for that, if you just go and you say JPS, okay, a lot of things are running for me, but right now your SQL line, okay, it is right now running in the embedded mode. So only SQL line is something which is up and running for me. If I would have run it in the cluster mode, okay, if I would have run drill in the cluster mode, then I would have a daemon called drill bit. But for all of the practical purposes, for all of the demonstration purposes, I don't really need to go to the cluster thing. Cluster mode is something which I ran in the previous webinar. I would be restricting my webinar to the embedded mode today. So now, where exactly this magic happens? Like we were just talking about, you can fetch the data from HBase, you can fetch the data from HDFS, you can fetch the data from file system or Hive and all. Where exactly this magic happens? This thing happens when you go to the storage tab. So there is a tab called storage tab. When you will go to the home page, you'll just find this thing. If you click here, it shows you various storage plugins. Okay, various storage plugins are like DFS. It is all about HDFS. Then you have HBase, Hive, Kudu. I hope you know about Kudu. Kudu is like the next version of HDFS. HDFS is the Hadoop distributed file system, but the problem is HDFS is a little bit slow, right? So the next version of HDFS in future would be called Kudu, and it has already got the plugins with it, or it has for now the plugin with Mongo. So if you look at it, these are the various plugins which are already available. Okay. In fact, you can further create your own custom storage plugins also. However, at least as of date, we have not explored that feature as of now. So, I'll be very, very consistent about it. Yes, it shows you the capability, but at least when it comes to my side, I have not really explored it so far. So probably I will be covering that kind of feature in the next webinar series, in the next installment of this webinar series. Now, this is where you can, and as you can see that you have like update, disable, enable, all of these options, wherein if you go to, let's say, let me just go to HBase. Okay, if I go to HBase, you will find that all of the HBase related configurations are provided here. So you just need to provide what exactly would be the Zookeeper quorum to which you will be connecting, what exactly would be the client port of Zookeeper, and then size. So all of these are actually, if you remember, all of these are the HBase site.xml entries which are there. So practically speaking, you are putting all of those HBase site.xml entries in the key value form here in this particular part. And then so tomorrow if you have to change something, you can just change here and then you can update it. It will not allow you to update until and unless just a second. It will not allow you to update anything till the time you get this success message, which you just got briefly there. If you get the success message, that means whatever changes of HBase plugin you did were successful. Otherwise, it will just not allow you. You can disable the plugins, you can enable the plugins. Right now, as you can see, my HBase plugin, my HDFS plugin, and my Hive plugin, as well as along with that my file system plugin, all of them are enabled. Kudu and MongoDB are disabled because I do not have Kudu or MongoDB right now installed in this system. Okay, so are we good so far? I'll just move ahead. So this is the place where you start putting various kind of storages, and then every storage becomes a database for you. Okay, so just like in Hive case, you must have noticed that you can say use database 1, use database 2, etc. You can actually say use DFS, use Hive, use HBase, use MongoDB, etc., etc. You can keep saying that, and then accordingly, every let's say for every kind of storage, you can perform your own queries. Okay, so Hive in Apache Drill. I think Hive is something which I covered last time. Probably I didn't cover the HBase part in Drill. So let me just show you a little bit things, right? Let us start from a single storage, then extend our understanding to multiple format storage, and then as the third part of the hands-on, let us combine all of them together. Okay, so as the first installment of it, I am again going to my machine. Just a second. I don't know why is it running so slow here. Okay, wait. Just a second. Let me just say exit, and yeah, that's my drill. I will come to drill later. Okay, so let me just do a list of all of my tables which are there in HBase. So you can see students, network word count, sales, test 3. I keep creating multiple tables. So let's not worry about them right now. Let's say scan. Scan is something which you use for scanning the HBase tables, and say students. Right? This is how you scan the tables in HBase. Guys, a lot of these things assume that you are already aware of HBase, you are already aware of Hadoop or HDFS. If somebody is not aware of them, then please bear with me, because these are like the prerequisites. Okay, so here when it comes to HBase, in HBase, this is how you can just query a particular table altogether. Right now, this is not the SQL. The data, as you can see, this is the NoSQL way of querying the data. Where drill is going to help you is, something like this. Hold on, guys. So, why my MacBook has started hanging right now? This is very unusual. Okay. Let me just quit once. Okay, so right now I'm already there in a session. I'm already in a session, and I just came out of that session right now. Okay, give me a second. This is the trackpad which is causing the problem. Okay, clear it up. Fine. And now, when I have to start drill in the embedded mode, this is the command which you typically give, right? I hope you are able to recall it from the last session. Drill embedded. When you start this, I think my machine itself has become slow. For what reason, I don't know. Okay. So here, the moment your drill comes up, you will see some funny messages. A drill in a hand is better than two in a bush. So, or sometimes it will say drill, baby drill, or there are only a few people happy in the world. One of them are the drill users. So you will see, and sometimes some offensive messages as well. Okay, so sometimes it gives you the message like, it's not your grandfather's SQL. So some of these messages do come, some of the funny things, the software. Okay, now this is where we are right now in our drill console. Okay, and you can run this query here. I will run this query right now from here, and I will run this query in more friendlier format from the just a second, guys. This query will not work because I actually restarted. Okay, I actually restarted my this thing, Apache Drill. Okay, so my storages are updated. Fine. So let me just run it. Okay. So guys, you can see this. I would not really go much into the syntax right now because that's not the intention here. The intention here is to show you that I am using the students table from HBase. And all I'm just saying is from HBase.students. You probably would like to see the query in bit more friendlier format, and hence only for your understanding I'm typing this query here. So can you see here? Select convert from row underscore key UTF-8 as student ID. And I hope you remember that in HBase everything is stored as byte array. So you can't really get the data directly in the form of byte array, right? You can't really get the data in the form of byte array. You have to convert the data from byte array to UTF format. That's what I'm doing. That is the only thing which I'm doing. And all I'm saying is from hbase.students, students.address.state, students.address.street, student.address.zip code as this thing. So guys, this is where you are. This is where you go. See this? Results in front of you. What is happening here is you are doing SQL on HBase. Everybody got the point? We tell, right, that SQL, NoSQL, what do we say? HBase is a NoSQL database. And this is where I'm showing you that drill enables you to do the SQL analysis of the very same data. And a lot of our ETL guys actually stay away from HBase because it doesn't allow them to perform SQL queries. And this is where just use drill, configure HBase. This is the admin activity, and done. You're just done. You just need to just start performing the query and nothing else, right? So this is the next part wherein you performed a query on HBase table. I skipped Hive part because Hive is something which I covered in last session itself. But if I would have been doing a Hive query, I would have just said hive.table, and whatever table structure was, it was already available. In fact, Hive is easier because in Hive you already have the column name, you already have the table name, and everything available to you. In HBase, it becomes difficult, right? So this was the use case number 1, which I wanted to share with you in the form of hands-on. And as you know, at least most of my webinars or in Edureka, we typically go with hands-on. I will continue the very same hands-on approach for the next thing. The next thing which I plan to cover is, let me first go the next is okay. The next is energy technical JSON.head. Okay. So guys, how's it? Next is a place where you see clearly that it is a proper JSON data. First was CSV data, second is the JSON data, right? Next, what is that? Energy overview. Okay. Next is this data, energy overview. Next is the tab separated file. Are we all clear? We are right now talking about 3 different files, 3 different data points. So there is a relation which I will explain when I will do the query exercise for you. But right now, my concern is not the query because I know all of you are good at SQL. My concern is right now about there are 3 different file formats which are there at the raw file level. Are we all good? Before I move ahead, and it is kind of a checkpoint for me also, guys. If you could reply. Are we all good as of now? Right? So now the next part which I'm going to do is, I will go to drill, and as I told you, you remember what I told, that drill directly takes the data source and says query, right? And just says query. So guys, here is this. Here is what I meant. Select star from DFS dot, look at it. What am I saying? Select star from file, and I'm limiting the record number of records to 5. Submit, and here's the data. Here's the data directly. How's it, guys? This is only first file, right? Let me go to the second file, which is even more interesting because this is JSON. So somebody can say, hey, Vishal, this was a CSV, so no big deal. Okay, let's go to JSON. And can you see my query has not changed? All I'm saying is select star from DFS dot the location of the JSON file, right? I'm not doing anything special. I'm saying select star from this JSON, submit. Wow, isn't it? The JSON data, whatever you saw in the raw format, is right now without doing anything. My important point here is, without doing anything, it is giving you the data directly in the form of SQL. And this is exactly what we said, that you would be able to do all of the processing without doing any data preparation. But this is not my entire story. This is not the point which I'm trying to prove. I'm doing these steps only to, kind of reassure you that with drill, it is actually schema-free SQL. So when I say schema-free SQL, what does it mean? See this. This was a tab separated file. It just gave you the data. It just gave you the data as it is. Okay, so far so good, right? Now the challenge comes. So now, in all practical scenario, you are getting the data from multiple data sources, and this is where the things become important. Just a second, guys. Where you have to perform that data, you have to perform, let's say, some sort of join, and you have to query all of the data sources in one go. So guys, this is my crude attempt. You can make it as sophisticated as you want, or you can make it as simple as you want. So select some EO.columns 0, EO.columns 1 as name, column 0 was a sticker, EO.columns 2 as sector, similarly EO.columns 3 as subsector, etc., etc. SD.columns 7 as market cap, and whatever, SD.columns 8 as volume. And what exactly they are, by the way? They are SD and all, they are the aliases, right? As it happens in any SQL, and they are the aliases for the respective files. And then you are just defining the join conditions. How is it? Even before I run the query. Isn't it just the SQL? Isn't it just the SQL? Instead of defining a table, defining a schema, loading the data, all of that, you just select star from this source and submit it. Submit it. And so just a second, it takes some time. Why, man? I think my machine is right now all of a sudden has gone slow. I can see my cursor moving very slowly. Probably something is wrong with my MacBook right now. And that's where you get the result directly. Okay, so Pawan says you have not used JSON. I could have used JSON as well. Pawan. You can see that it is there. It is there, ET. I could have just said ET dot whatever column name you want to. I just don't remember the column here. Otherwise, I would have just used it. Or let me just see if I can use it something. So for that, actually, I have to just go there and do a little bit of stuff. But so guys, this was the second hands-on which I definitely wanted to share before I log out. Now I will move on to the last. Okay, I will move on to the last part of this webinar. I hope you are finding this webinar useful, or the time whatever you are spending as a good investment. Okay. Now this is the place. So I hope you have seen the evolution, right? The first was a place. Just a second. The first place where I queried only one storage plugin, right? Where I queried only one storage plugin, and that storage plugin was a NoSQL case. The second case was when I queried multiple data formats in one go. Now I will move to the third case, which is even more complicated, wherein apart from formats, forget about formats, I am mixing multiple storage types together. I am mixing multiple storage types together. Okay. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that, and how to implement that? Let us see first via the slide deck, and then we will come back to the system. So Pawan says try different query type. Hey Pawan, when you will click on physical or logical, it will give you the physical plan and the logical plan which Drill creates for these queries. Okay, it is just like your explain plan in SQL World. Now let us directly go to the next one. So, there's a question from Shweta. Sorry, I missed the initial session, but caught up with something. Will the recording be available on my account? I think yes, Shweta. So the last recording also got uploaded in LMS, and I think yes, this is because I am recording this session right now. So this will also be available. Okay. So now the next part, which we will proceed. So this is the most complicated thing, where it comes to the place wherein you have to go ahead and do a little bit of the storage plugins mixing. Let me explain that in the form of a use case. Again, this also happens very, very often, and it is a slight change of whatever use case you saw earlier. Let's say you have a project across multiple teams. Let's not even call them as department 1, department 2. Let's call them as different teams, right? There's a case wherein there's a team which has to continuously work on the log files, and it just does its own ETL process and all that stuff, and does whatever data processing it has to do, eventually reporting purposes and all are solved by team 1 in one particular fashion. Plain files, whatever format, it is irrelevant. You can see why it is irrelevant. Right? The challenge arises that the second team, or the second team from where you have to get the data and all, it uses HBase. It just uses HBase. So we are not right now talking about, we are not talking about two different formats here, right? We are not talking about two different formats here. We are talking about two different storage systems. Okay, and this is the place when whatever constraint or something, you have to get the data from these two different data sources and eventually perform some sort of analysis. So this is the place where I'm going to integrate HBase data source with the normal normal plain file data source, and see if I can combine them together to perform a single query. Okay, to perform a single query. So this is where I'm sure this is the typical day of any data analyst who is working in big data world. You have to do this thing. Right now, I'm sure your tools are actually Hive. So wherein you are getting the data from multiple data sources, probably your data sourcing teams are giving you the data which is cleansed, and then they must be putting the data somewhere in STFS. Then you go ahead and you start creating your external tables or managed tables, whatever you want to, most probably external tables, and then you must be doing your queries and all, right? But then you have quite a lot of dependency across multiple teams which do the data cleansing, data changing, put them in the very same platform so that you can go ahead and start doing the analysis. You have a dependency, right? Whereas how exactly Apache Drill is going to help you to remove all of the dependency? Let me just directly show it to you. So how do I do that? For this, guys, let me just start my HBase shell once more. Okay, HBase shell. So I have kind of entered some data already. What is my table name? Let me just see. Okay, S3. S3 is my table. So let me just say list. It will give me all the tables which are there in HBase. Quickly, yes, and I go ahead and I say test 3. So seems like I have some data which is about the purchases of the users. Okay, Satish, I'll answer your question in a bit, in some time. I'm in between of one concept. Then I'll take up your question in a few more minutes. So now, right? Right now, as you can see, that this particular table in HBase is having some data, which is like the name of the person, the order. What is the order? So I think this guy called Vishal, he has ordered a tablet. Avnish is somebody who has ordered a mobile, and seems like, and of course, these are the row keys, right? 10, 11, they are the row keys, right? In terms of HBase world. Now, so this is one thing. The other thing is the plain data, right? Plain data. So the plain data which you have is a CSV file. Oh, sorry, unnecessarily I clicked LibreOffice. The other file is very simple. Right now I am not even going for a higher volume of the data because that is the point which we have covered last session itself. So here you can see that there are only two fields. Let's say the ID of a customer or an employee and the name of the employee, right? So 10 Vishal, 20 Avnish, 20 Vinny, and then 30 Prachi. Actually, let me say 30 and 30 and let me say 30. It will not affect anything in my result, right? So guys, if I have to do the join, can you tell me what should be the output? If you can imagine that these two data sets are available as SQL tables, what should come if I do the join based on the ID? What should come in the output? If you were able to, perform the query. If you were able to perform the query. Perfect. Okay. Pawan has one answer. Alok has one answer. So there are people who have told that 2 records will come, and then there are people who are telling me that 1 record will come. Actually, there will be only 1 record, which will be for ID 10, which will be for ID 10, right? That is the only thing which is common. Remaining everything else, that ID 11 does not exist here, even though the name is same. Okay, even though the name is same, ID 10 does not exist, and 30 and 40 of course don't match, right? 30 and 40 of course don't match. But the problem here is, right, Alok, Amardeep, others, the problem here is you can see it from naked eyes, right? But you cannot really query it right now because one is just a file, one is HBase database. Okay, that's where drill comes into picture. So let me just run this query, and before I run this query, of course, I will explain you the query as well. This is another magic, I would say. So guys, select p dot columns 0 as ID, p dot columns 1 as name, and then convert from o dot people dot order dot people dot orders UTF-8. I'm just converting it as order item from file, that whatever that CSV file. I created the alias called p, and the other thing is HBase test. You literally didn't do anything. You just said that instead of table 1, provide the location of the file. Instead of table 2, provide HBase dot whatever table it is, and where this is your join condition. This is your join condition. Okay, you have to do the casting. This is something which you have to do, because by default HBase will return you a byte array, and hence you have to cast it as integer. And similarly, the text file will have the type as varchar, right? So that also needs to be cast as integer, right? Just cast them as integer and perform the join. That's it. And here you have performed the join between a file and an HBase in one single place altogether. I think I need not to speak more on these lines, because rest, if I leave up to your imagination, you can find out how powerful drill will be. How powerful will the drill thing be in your setup the moment you start thinking of its use cases in your projects. As I was telling you at the start itself, that in the big data projects, the biggest challenge for you is to get the data across multiple data systems in one format without doing the hustle and bustle of, the schema preparation, schema uniforming part, and all of that, right? So all of that goes away. All of that just goes away. And I think, yeah, this is probably the last thing also in my webinar. Oh wow, I'm almost on time. Yes. So there was a guy, I think Satish was asking this question, that is there a Java API? No, there is no Java API, at least as of now, because it is still evolving, Satish. Okay, probably there might be Java APIs in future, yes, but as of date, nothing. Can drill work with insert and delete statement? No, 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 Rajesh. Delete, insert, all of these are the database operations, Rajesh, right? They are that DMLs, right? Whereas this guy is a complete query engine. So all kind of query engine capabilities across different data sources is something which this guy will provide you. So here guys, this is where the coverage of this second installment of this webinar series ends. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. I hope there was few takeaways, especially for the SQL guys who have to work with HBase or who might have to work with HBase in future or something. I hope it just provides you good alternatives. So there is no course, nothing on it in Edureka on the top of it. There is no course, it is not a promotional webinar. It is just that this is one of the upcoming technologies. With that guys, I would like to take your permission, and I would request only one thing. When you leave the webinar, please do provide the feedback. It will hardly take few more seconds. That's it. Thanks a lot. With that, I would like to take your permission. Bye. Bye for now.